Hey there, folks. Jason again, and you may wonder why I'm getting out 2 battle reports in a row. Truth is, I wasn't happy with how long the other one went. I'm trying the picture-based battle report versus the video one, in part because it's easier to do picture-based ones at stores versus where I play at my house. But the other one is to make the battle reports go a little bit quicker, and the other one ran about 30 minutes. So what I'm going to do is trim out the updates and just try to tighten things up a little bit, then also turn down the music. Somebody sent me a note politely, and I appreciate the note saying that the music was a bit loud on the longer version, so I'm going to try to fix that with this one. So let's see if we can hustle through this battle report a little bit faster. So this past weekend I had my first formal battle report since coming back to the U.S. I played some other ones, but this is the first one I took pictures of. And it's 2,800 points, Warhammer Fantasy Warriors of Chaos versus Dwarves. This is the first time I've actually ever played Dwarves, and it was a really fun game. Just from the get-go, I wanted to thank my opponent for good times. He is prepping for a tournament, Nova, 2,800 points. So he brought his tournament list. I brought kind of a fun and fluffy Khorne list. And we didn't want to play the Nova scenarios because I think they're a little bit boring, and I think he agrees. I want to try something new, so he rolled up a meeting engagement. So that's what we went with. So on to the list. For my lists, again, I wanted to bring something a little bit fun, but with something that packed a little bit of punch. So, what are you going to go with? You're going to go with Khorne. And so I started with Chaos Lord. I kind of threw this list together quickly, so there's better choices. In fact, I'm going to have a game tonight. I'm going to bring the same list, but I'm going to tweak some things. So Chaos Lord for combat, only strength 5. That's kind of a big deal. Flaming Breath, forget to use. Critical. Exalted Hero, rerollable armor save. 2 Warhounds to screen and keep the Skull Crushers from running off. Warriors with Halberds, Forsaken of Khorne, Marauder Horsemen, 7 Chaos Knights, 17 Chosen, and 2 groups of 3 Skull Crushers, and a War Shrine of Khorne. And for his list, I am not really familiar with Dwarven runes that much, but essentially I thought he was going to go with a gun line. He didn't. He went, and I didn't look at his list beforehand. He went with a kind of the Gyrocopter Vanguard move up and get in your face list, which was a welcome change from what I've seen of a lot of dwarf lists. So he had the Lord, pretty tough combat Lord, as you'll see. Thane BSB, 2 Runesmiths, block of 30 Longbeards, 40 Warriors, 3 Gyrocopters, a Cannon, Grudge Thrower, 28 Hammerers, which were, I would say, his MVPs, and 2 groups of 5 Rangers. And because this is my first time taking a picture-based battle report and my first time doing a battle report here and kind of feeling things out a little bit, I forgot to take pictures of the pregame and the setup. So these first couple pictures are going to serve as both the overview of the board and my first turn movement and deployment. So I was going to be cute, and I thought I would take this side. I placed a tower in the middle, and you're going to see that tower is gonna be the bane of my existence. But anyway, so the board set up, we decided to drop down 2 swamps. One with Cambrian Quicksand, won't really matter other than why I did my deployment. The other one is a Mystery Swamp. It will kind of matter, but it won't ever really go into effect. The magical side of it, and then the River of Light, kind of humorously at the end. So I won the role to go first, so I had to deploy my entire army. And so I did from right to left. Actually, we're going to hold off on that because I'm going to get it into greater detail here shortly. Suffice it to say, this is what I had on my side of the board for 2/3 of the board, and let's see what's over here on the left. And so then you just got a hill, you've got a wall, and that's essentially it. But you can see here, my goal is essentially just to move up. And you're going to note that the other side of the board's a little thin. Well, we'll get into why that is. So just for close-ups, going to move from left to right on top of the hill. These Marauder Horsemen, if you're wondering why they're pointed that way. So meeting engagement, I rolled 2 1s for my units. One of them was my Marauder Horsemen. So they came in at the end of my movement phase in turn 1. And they're going to go after his gyrocopter and rangers, which he scouted up here. And then moving again down my left flank. So 2 groups of skull crushers. The warhounds have already moved up to try to get in the face of that gyrocopter, either slow it down or he could fly right over it if he wants to, and then I can go after the war machines. And then, so I've got the group of chosen. Excuse me. They ended up rolling to get the +1 toughness, which I liked. And my general's in there in the front left. And then there's the War Shrine, and here's kind of my critical mistake, although I didn't kind of realize it. My opponent just took advantage of my decision. I put the warriors in the tower, thinking that would protect them. In hindsight, I'm not really sure why I did it. Warriors are in the tower. You can kind of see, it'll become apparent in the next slide, where the Longbeards are, and then there's his cannon, one of the things I was trying to hide from. So you got my right flank, the Longbeards. The Forsaken have turned a little bit. The Chaos Knights didn't really do much because, and I didn't mention it, I gave them the Ranger Standard, so they have the Strider special rule, which is why I put them near the swamps, because they can ignore the swamps, essentially. But he put down these hammerers with his BSB over here, and that was probably the worst possible matchup for these Chaos Knights. So I'm kind of trying to figure out what I want to do here. I just angle everything, so the Forsaken can go into a front or a flank, and vice versa for the Knights, but we've got a bit of a standoff here, and I'm on the losing end in terms of combat power. Unfortunately for him, he didn't really have that many drops first turn, because he rolled a whole bunch of 1s. He did get his grudge thrower down there up in the upper right, but he rolled a 1 for his other gyrocopter, his warrior block with his lord, his BSB, and a group of rangers. So all of those don't get to come in until the end of his movement phase on turn 1. And he was pretty worried about this, but I think in the long run it paid off for him. So Dwarf turn 1. I had just moved up, as you saw in the pictures, and he declares 2 charges, and he fails both. The hammers into my knights, and the Longbeards into my Forsaken. So failed charges. He declares a charge into the Warhounds. I elect to hold just to slow him down, and he kills the Warhounds and then overruns. And then he just moves up the Rangers to redirect the left-hand most Skullcrushers. He brings his Gyrocopter on, and he brings his Warriors with the Lord on. Again, which is making my right flank even more of a problem. And at this point, I'm getting really worried about what's going to happen with my knights. And then he just brings the Rangers on here to screen his war machines for if and when I eventually do get around to his right flank. Goes into his shooting phase, and this bat rep is a story of rolling 1s in opportune times. For him, it's for artillery to wound. And for me, it's dangerous terrain tests. So he rolls a 1. He's shooting into the tower. He rolls a 1 to, for the number of, something happens where he rolls both a 1 to hit and a 1, because he gets a reroll because it's flaming attacks inside of a building. And he keeps rolling 1s to wound. So very unfortunate series of rolls for him. And then over here, I forget what he drops his grudge thrower on. It might be the general's unit, rolls a 1 to wound. So very unfortunate artillery phase for him. I was laughing, but I actually felt bad for laughing. We were both having a pretty relaxed time, but I think he wanted to do something bad with those dice. So my turn 2, and I forgot to mention, well, let's get through. So movement, I quickly see that my army is completely out of position. Remember, I have to deploy everything first before he has to deploy. So I had kind of made my right flank the light flank in terms of my combat power, thinking he was going to deploy. He basically took advantage of it and had the right loaded. So I had to turn everything around and kind of go the other direction. But what did happen, unfortunately, is my knights failed their frenzy check and ended up going into the hammers, which was not what I wanted to have happen. Forsaken, I'm pretty sure they failed their frenzy check. I could be wrong. If my opponent's watching this, he can post it. Maybe I just sent them into the Forsaken, or sent them into the Longbeards. Whatever it was, I don't have a picture of it because I'm still getting the hang of taking pictures. I apologize. But they end up getting crushed. The Knights go in, And at this point, I'm like, I got to turn this around, and all the actions on my right flank. So you can see here, I turn the War Shrine around, I turn the Chosen around, and during the magic phase, the first round he blocked it with his Rune of Spell Breaking, and we determined that he can't destroy the spell ability of the War Shrine because it's not cast by a wizard. It's a bound thing attached to the War Shrine. So I roll 6 dice on it this time, double sixes, and I get +1 toughness on the BSB and +1 weapon skill, boo, on the Lord. So that's this side of my army turning around to face. Predictably, the left-hand Skull Crushers destroy the Rangers. The right-hand Skull Crushers destroy the Gyrocopter. I've got a star next to his Gyrocopter down there. During his first turn, he steam gunned. I think he killed 3 of the Marauders. I had charged into the remaining Marauders into his Gyrocopter to try to finish it off. Thought I could, 4 strength 5 attacks. Ended up doing 1 wound, but he did like 2 attacks back, and they both hit, they both wounded, and he killed my 2 Marauders. So that sucks. But that Gyrocopter only has a wound left. So that's my left flank. And then we're going to go to combat. And you can see what happens here. Exactly what I thought was going to happen. He crushed the Knights. So you can see there I did 6 wounds. It looks like I don't think I did anything on the BSB. He did 5 back to me. I ended up sticking, but you can see what's going to happen in Dwarf turn 2. He's already got his general's unit eyeballing the flank of those Knights, and they are not long for this world. So, Dwarf turn 2. I've got the X marked there up on the Knights. They're going to make that charge. I think he moves the Warriors up, or this might be the overrun from the Forsaken. I might have taken this picture out of order, but essentially he moves these guys up, and then is going to reform them. So maybe I just took a different angle. By the end of his turn, you're going to be pointing the other direction. And you can see where my warriors are in the building. Over here, he flies over, get into his position to try to steam gun something, but basically just gets out of my charge arc. And then he rolls a 1 again to wound with his cannon. And I forget what he does with his grudge thrower, but it wasn't much if it was anything. So you can see up there on the right, that's where the Knights lost, and you can see his general's unit overran and is moving toward the center of the board. So this is the kind of the conundrum that I had faced. He had also moved his Gyrocopter to the left-hand side of the tower. He had the warrior unit or the Longbeard unit on the right-hand side of the tower, and had turned them around to face the direction I think is expecting the Skull Crushers. But that unit is facing towards his side of the board. And so I know at this point, I'm like, I need to get those warriors out of the tower. But he was really smart about the way he deployed, in that I don't have any room to get out on his side of the tower. I need to get out. So the only way I can get them out is I have to reform the warriors. So they were 6 wide, now they're 5 wide. And they're just kind of blocking things up. So really good deployment decision, movement decisions by my opponent. So essentially everything continues to move to the right. The Warhounds are there, and you'll see those Warhounds do later on. So basically I'm setting up for a fight on my right flank. And so the Skull Crushers one's gonna move toward the Grudge Thrower, the other one's gonna try to go over here and support. Of note is the big group of stones up there. We determined he can't shoot through the stones to go after my Skull Crushers, which is good, so they're protected for a turn. War Shrine goes off again in the magic phase, and the BSB gets +1 strength, and the Lord gets +1 attack, which is a better roll. Dwarf turn 3, he decides to sacrifice his remaining Gyrocopters. He tries to steam gun again. At one point, he got a wound off in one of my Skull Crushers. So he goes up here to redirect, and I don't think I have a picture of it, but spoiler alert, the left-hand Skull Crusher unit. Sorry about that. Quick phone call. So the Skull Crushers on the left are going to crush. the Gyrocopter on the left and go off the board, but then he's going to redirect, and the Skull Crushers are going to have to go to the right on my side of the tower instead of going the direction I want them to go, which is on his side of the tower to get in with the warriors. So again, good taking advantage of Khorne's frenzy. So he attempts to charge into the warriors and fails, and he again turns the Longbeards around. I'm sorry, I said warriors before. I wanted the Skull Crushers to get into this unit of Longbeards here. He kind of realizes that's not going to happen and turns them around to help out with this combat. So we've got quite a brouhaha, quite a throwdown shaping up here in the right-hand center of the board. He drops, in the shooting phase, he drops the Grudge Thrower down. He can't see where it lands, but he still gets a direct hit, but he only kills 2 warriors. But this picture also does a good job of showing kind of the mess that's forming up here. So my turn 4. And I didn't take pictures in the movement phase because we're trying to just move through the battle. So you can see I declared 2 charges. I made 2 charges with the Chosen unit and the Warrior unit. I moved the War Shrine up and essentially sacrificed it to redirect the Longbeard unit on the left. And I think he stops the War Shrine spell from going off. So we go into combat. And my Lord declares a challenge. And so he has 7 or 8. I think he has 7 attacks. He gets the +1 for being frenzied and +1 for the War Shrine. But he goes after his Lord. He accepts with his Lord. And I didn't realize that, but his Lord basically set up to kill Strength 5 characters. So I think I do 1 wound him, because he's got like a 1-up save or 2-up save, and then a 4-up ward save. So he's got a really strong build. Might do 1 wound, and he comes back, and he's got something where every wound he does on Strength 5 or better turns into D6 wounds, and he ends up killing my Lord, which sucks. But, so the Warriors see that, and they just go ballistic on this unit. And it looks like I kill about 18 guys. I lose 3 Chosen and 3 Warriors in return. I think at least 1 or 2 of those Chosen actually lost to dangerous terrain, which is a theme on the right side of the board here. So bottom line is, he is not steadfast. He is going to break. And he gets his reroll. Doesn't matter. He gets double 1s. Doesn't get it. And I go to pursue. And I'm like, okay, I need to get some points back. Because I already lost the Forsaken. I already lost the Knights. And I know there's probably no way that I'm not going to get flank charged into my warriors by his hammerers. So I think I roll a 7 or a 10 for my charge distance. And I'm like, I got this in the bag. I think he rolls an 11. Whatever it is, he rolls insanely high for the Dwarves. So, and this is my turn. And this is a critical point in the battle. Had I caught this, I think this battle might have gone a lot differently. Suffice it to say, in the next dwarf turn, things aren't going to go anywhere like I'd planned. So here's just a shot. The War Shrine, of course, loses to the Longbeards, and they pursue and get the War Shrine. And the Skull Crushers here are redirected. Unfortunately, they are redirected in such a way that they're going to stop an inch away from the Warhounds, which again is going to prevent me from charging my next turn. So again, good for him. Good play on the movement side. And then over here, my guys are going to come back on the board and move up toward his war machines. I think that picture might have been taken out of order, but you get the gist. So his turn. Of course, his warriors and his Lord rallies on leadership 10. He's got the BSB nearby, and he reforms. So even if the Chosen manages to survive, I don't think they've got the killing power to kind of break his steadfast. And then his hammers go into the flank of the warriors, and you can guess how that's going to go. And so going on into combat, I have no more magic. I have no shooting. I lose 5 warriors and the BSB. I forget what happened to the BSB, but he didn't last. And so you can guess what's going to happen to the warriors here. They break and run through the swamp and roll a bunch of 1s, and I lose even more to dangerous terrain. It's not really going to matter, though, because they are below 25%, so they're going to need double 1s to rally. But what does matter is his hammers overrun into the flank of my Chosen. So I have no shot now of getting into the Lord. So this is what it looks like. At some point, I lost a skull crusher. I forget if I think it might have been to the grudge thrower. It wasn't to the hammers. So I have two skull crushers, hopefully coming over here to do something. And you'll see how he reacts to that. So my right flank is falling apart. The left flank is okay, but that's not where the action or, frankly, the points are. So my turn 5, combat the Chosen, lose a lot, and break, and run through the swamp. And I think I might take some more dangerous terrain tests. You can see he's got my 2 banners over there. And that's essentially it. So on Dwarf turn 5, my guys have continued to flee. I think I may have done the annotations for this. Anyways, the warriors do not roll double ones. He declares a challenge, or declares a charge on my Forsaken, and what his goal is to try to get the Forsaken to run and to flee in front of the Longbeards down here on the left, where he can charge them and catch them with his short, stunty little legs. It doesn't end up working like that. But what he does do, he also turns the Longbeards around for this inevitable charge. But in his shooting phase, he manages to plant the cannonball on his side of the wall. It bounces over, goes through both the Skull Crushers, and kills them both outright. So removes that unit and that threat as well. And so my turn 6, I run through this river with mysterious terrain. It turns out it is a river of light. We roll it up. At first, we thought it was Shem's Burning Gaze. Turns out it was whatever one gives you, is it Foz Protection? Whatever one gets you your maybe it's Speed of Light. I forget what it is. Anyways, it doesn't do anything. But at this point, we're kind of playing it with the book rule. So he hasn't killed this unit. He doesn't get the points for it. I mean, I've lost the game, but we were just, and I think they lost another one due to dangerous terrain. So this unit's just getting kind of trickled away. But it does not get off the board. Spoiler alert. Over here, I don't know if I have a picture of it, but the Chosen are not caught. They don't flee far enough away from the warrior unit to attempt to be charged by the Longbeards. So I keep the points for both of those 2 units. But I get a little bit of revenge over here, a very, very small token amount of revenge, in that the Skull Crushers go into the Grudge Thrower, the Warhounds with poison go into the cannon, and predictably Skull Crushers kill the Grudge Thrower, and the Warhounds kill the cannon. And that's it. So this was a crushing victory for the Dwarves. So what are my thoughts on the battle? I have a love-hate relationship with the Blood God. Fluff-wise, he's my favorite. It's up there with Zinch. But obviously the Frenzy rule, you're going to get outplayed if somebody knows what they're doing. And my opponent had a lot of chaff, an incredible amount for a Dwarf list, although the new book allows them to do this. And he took full advantage of it and just led my army around by the nose. Or I just failed that leadership test, and the Knights went in to the Hammers, which spelled the doom of that unit. So, but this was also a story of a difference between a tournament prep list and fun ones. We had a great game. I had fun, and I knew going into this I wanted to play a fun list. But there is a difference. I would have played it differently, and I am not using this as an excuse. But this is just the way. But he could play this list all the time. I would do things differently. Then sometimes there's just things you can't control. The rough deployment for the Dwarves, rolling all those ones, gave him a tremendous amount of flexibility, and he took full advantage of it. My kudos to him. He was a great general. He loaded up the flank where I was not, and which took time away from me getting to him. It gave him time to get well positioned, loading up on my right flank where I just had the Forsaken and the Knights. Outstanding work by my opponent. And we had a lot of fun while we were playing the game, too. As for me, I failed in the maneuver phase. I should never have put those warriors in the tower. There was no reason for them to be there. I was kind of using it as a way just to stay away from his war machines. He did roll a boatload of ones, but there wasn't any reason for them to go in there. And then he played it where I couldn't get out, which, again, just compounded the problems with me having to essentially shift my entire army from the left-hand flank to the right-hand flank. Critical combat. When I broke the dwarf general and the warriors, but I did not run them down. I mean, that's just a roll of the dice. Had I done so, it would at least had a lot more points. I think I ended up getting 300 or 400 points from him. He got almost 1,700 from me. So it would have been a lot closer. I would have gotten revenge on his lord for killing my lord. But that's just bad luck. And speaking of bad luck, there was a whole lot of ones in critical times. I couldn't roll a dangerous terrain test to save my life. He couldn't keep from rolling ones on his artillery. So that's just a break sometimes, but it was hilarious. We were just laughing. But in some, great game. Glad I found a place to be able to play. Hope to play this opponent in the future, and so thanks to him, and he can feel free to weigh in if he likes, and thanks to you guys for watching. And as always, like, subscribe, comments are welcome, and hopefully this battle report's a little bit shorter. Take it easy.